air condition fixed and it's plenty hot outside. So as we've gone through a lot of changes in our state, in our nation, and overseas, we've seen many issues continue to pop up. One of those issues is that people just don't want to listen to anybody else anymore. And that's a very, very, very serious issue. You know, there used to be a day and age at some point, I don't know when it was, I don't know if it was in my lifetime or before, but it used to seem like at least people used to be a little more civil, and that civility, that listening, that willingness to listen has gone away almost completely. And it's like, well, if you don't listen to somebody else, how do you understand somebody else? And that's a very big issue. If you guys are listening to us right now and you're watching us live streaming or on YouTube, Rumble, X, wherever, make sure that you like and share, okay? Because that's how you get the message out there that there is a great show. It's called The Divide, and they're talking about a great number of important subjects that we don't often hear about. So definitely make sure that you share and subscribe. And if you're listening to us on the radio, make sure that you tell everybody to tune into our show every Monday, 2:30 to 4 p.m. So here on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. So as we go in this conversation about what happened to conversations, we have to look internally in ourselves and see from our own personal point of view, what have we experienced? What have we seen happen as we've lived our lives and as we've grown up? When we're little, we're taught you start out, you're born, right? Well, everybody's born, right? Unless you're created in a lab or a factory somewhere, coming soon to a human near you, because that is actually something that they're working on, which is definitely worth talking about in another episode. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit later. But first, when you're born, your first default is to think about yourself, right? Your own selfishness, your own self-interest, because it's all about you, right? You see this in babies, right? They cry, they give a hard time because they want, and you got to give, right? You see it in very small children. They want, and you got to give. But at some point, as you start to grow, you become, as they call it, socialized, right? Where you realize that your own personal self-interest is not necessarily going to be seen the same way by other individuals, and thereby it'll make it less likely that you'll be able to get the things that you want if you try to take them by force or by belligerence or by demanding and actions like that. Now, that's what happens or is supposed to happen. But something happened, and it's really been in my lifetime I've seen this happen itself. Like, I live in the lifetime where they started to tell kids, everybody is their own precious little snowflake and everybody is so great, and they started giving participation trophies and everything like that. I'm young enough to remember right before they did that, because they didn't used to do that. That's something that came about, I don't know, in the 2000s, sometime mid-2000s. I don't know exactly when it came about, but you realize that they started giving everybody trophies. Maybe it even started before that. Maybe it started to seep into culture in the 90s, right? Maybe the late 90s or something like that. Because everybody, and America is founded on everybody being an individual sovereignty, individual liberty, which is something that we talk about often. But everybody as an individual has got this new cultivated notion that everything is all about them all the time. And if somebody doesn't support what you believe or what you want to say is true, right? Because you don't even necessarily have to believe it. You might know completely different, but you say that it's true. And if other people don't want to participate in that, you are belligerent, you are nasty, and sometimes you're even violent. And that's not okay. But this is what we see happening. It's evident. You can see it right in your neighborhood, in your same community that you live in. We've got this issue from telling everybody that they deserve to be heard and seen, and that is a misnomer and a absolute fallacy. And you'll say, well, Marcus, that's a little bit of a harsh take on things, isn't it? No, absolutely not. Because I want to watch the top performers, not the lowest performers, right? If you go to the ballet, you want to see the best ballerinas, okay? You don't want to see the worst ballerinas. Who wants that? Nobody wants that. So there's been this cultivated narrative that's been pushed, and they call it equity. Well, you have to ask, what is equity? Equity is alive, basically, now, because they've tried to rebrand the definition of equity. Equity means that you have some stake in stuff, and now they're trying to make it mean something completely different. It means that now they're trying to say, oh, it means that people might not have started at the same place, but they should always end at the same place. Well, that sounds ridiculous. That sounds ridiculous. And I am an all roads lead to Rome type of a person, but that sounds ridiculous to me. Why would everybody possibly end at the same? If you don't work out and you don't exercise and you don't eat right, you're not going to end up with the physique of Mr. Olympia. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't make sense. It's not congruent. There's no congruency there. But we don't want to have that real serious conversation because everybody's been so baby. They've also got this whole concept, let a kid be a kid, right? Well, that's a very serious concept. First of all, when you hear let a kid be a kid, that's something that they apply to human children. But human children aren't kids. Human children are children. Kids are baby goats. Now, I don't know about you, but I know almost every human that I know doesn't like to be called an animal. I don't know why. Humans are animals of the genus Homo sapiens sapiens, but humans are animals, but they don't want to be called an animal. But if you don't want to be called an animal, why do you call small children, or like I like to say, small humans, why would you possibly call them kids? Now, a kid is a baby goat. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't take a baby goat to be the most smartest animal in the animal kingdom. So right there in that language, you have diminishment of personal value of that individual. But it's not so much of them directly, it's by you internalized inside your thought process. Because in your head, you're like, oh, well, they're just a kid. They're just a kid. Well, but a kid is a goat. A kid is a baby goat. What does a baby goat do? Act up, eat stuff, chew on stuff that it ain't got no business doing, run around crazy, do whatever it wants to do. That's what a baby goat is. Like, are we being serious? We want to attribute that type of behavior to human children, to small people? Why would you do that? Why would you make such an attribution? That's not a very good attribution at all. But again, it goes to the minimization of standards that people are being held to. So now you've got this concept of let a kid be a kid, right? So how does that end up impacting school and education and discipline and stuff like that? So whereas 13, 12, 13, 14, in that range is what you would traditionally have as an adult, okay? And people will say, well, Marcus, that's not an adult. Who says? Who says that's not an adult? And what makes an individual an adult, right? Is it the mindset? Is it the aptitude? Is it the ability? What exactly makes somebody an adult? Is it their body proportions and what their body does? What do we consider maturity? When you look up things that people consider to be maturity, usually when they say something is at maturity, it's done. It's done. Like there is nowhere to go after maturity except decline. You understand? So when we really think about definitions of words are very important. But the fact of the matter is, who decides what mature is? And again, is it a mindset? Is it a physicality? Is it a physiology? Where does this concept come from, and what do we really mean by it? So going back to the other point of the everybody gets a trophy and let a kid be a kid type of situation, this is something that we need to drill down into and really have a very serious conversation about. When we see schools and when we see parents, right? We've got these parents, most of the parents now are the young millennials or mid mid to young millennials are the ones that are the parents right now. And they still feel like, oh well, I can do the same things I did when I was in high school or in middle school or whatever, right? So there's no, what would you call that? Is that maturity? Is that maturity of mindset? Is that physiology? Again, where are we deciding what is maturity? Now these people are raising their children. They're allegedly, right? And that's up to that's a questionable statement if they are raising the children or not, because largely it's the TV, music, their peers, and the educational system. And that's why I'm not very big on the educational system, because why would you let your enemy teach your children? The government is not your friend. The government is your enemy. The government seeks one thing, and that's to empower itself with more power over you as an individual. And you're supposed to have individual liberty and individual sovereignty. But you no longer have that with the structure of the educational system. They take that away from you. They drain your creativity, and they make you into a blob that they want to be filled with whatever the thought process of the age is. In this case, everything is super, super soft and super, super leftist liberal. Okay, most of it is largely socialist, and now they're putting this Islam nonsense in there. Okay, and you'll say, well, Marcus, it's not Islam nonsense, well, isn't it? Why is that in the educational system in a Christian country? And then you'll say, oh, well, Marcus, it's not a Christian country. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. America is a Christian country. America was founded by Christians. There's a great level of prophetization. Okay, there is a great level of what would you call evangelism here. The majority of the country has always been Christian since its founding, because it was founded on Christian values and Christian morals. And then people will say, oh, well, there should be a separation between church and state. Where does that concept come from? Because it's not in the Constitution or anywhere like that. So the concept comes from a letter. It's not even actual law or anything. It comes from the concept that came from a letter. Now, the whole thing behind separation of church and state was actually to do with the English church, right? Now, if you know anything about the English church is the Anglican church. The king is the head of the Anglican church. Right now, that's King Charles. Okay. What happened with England is they didn't want to abide by the rules of the Catholic Church, which were you can't keep getting divorced and then get remarried. So that's King Henry, what is it, the eighth, right? So he didn't want to do that. He said, I do what I want. So he got rid of the Catholic Church and said, I'm starting my own church. And that concept did not sit well with many of the first settlers that came from over. The Puritans, you may have heard of them. Okay, the Pilgrims and the rest of them. Okay, many of these people were people who were of faith that got pushed away or were considered the dregs of England because they didn't want to conform to Anglicanism, right? So when our founding documents started to get created and stuff like that, the goal was to prevent the state, which is the government, the state from having its own church, right? So like in England, the king is the head of the church. They didn't want in America the government to be the head of the church. That's where that concept comes from. Not that we shouldn't put our vision as Christians or religious people into politics. Not that we shouldn't be able to talk about that. But what happened after Martin Luther King was assassinated with Lyndon B. Johnson? Almost the day to the year after Martin Luther King was assassinated, Lyndon B. Johnson passed a tax code that required churches to register as 501(c)(3)s because Lyndon B. Johnson saw how galvanizing and how powerful the American church was with the civil rights movement, especially the Black church. And he said he didn't want that anymore. He had to break up their power. So they tried to take the church out of politics, which was wrong, because that's where all our morals and values came from in society. That was what made us be able to prosper so much as a nation. And that was a problem. You might know Nixon a little bit. You might have heard of the Nixon tapes, right? On one of the Nixon tapes, President Nixon said, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but essentially, because of the delivery, he said, well, I want to find a correlation with in Mexico. He said, I don't understand how they grow so much marijuana, but we don't have it as a problem in Mexico like we have it as a problem in America. Why is that? He said, is it because they are very Catholic and they adhere to the religion very strictly? He said, I want you to investigate that, because he saw that religion was of a massive amount of value as far as setting morals and principles and virtues for a society that is not only functional, but positive. You understand? So this is a big thing. But now we've got these teachers, and I specifically talk about the Islam thing because these people are fake Islamists. Okay, they're fake. They don't know anything about Islam. And that's a very serious problem, because they out here propagating this nonsense to try to get more people to convert to Islam and to push all this Islam on people. And they don't even know anything about Islam themselves. They saw it on a TikTok, or they want to free Palestine. So that's what's clever now. And they're pushing that into the schools. I was having a talk with somebody the other day, and they were talking about, oh, Islam resonates with them more than Christianity because there's things in Christianity that they don't agree with, because in the Bible talks a lot about genocide. I'm like, are you serious? Are you serious? Have you read the Quran? Like, do you know anything about Islam? It's aggressively violent. It's aggressively violent. It's prone to genocide. And this is a very serious conversation that nobody wants to have. You know, and that's the big difference to me between Christianity and between Islam. Islam has been made to masquerade as a peaceful religion, which it is not. Christianity does not masquerade as a peaceful religion, but they take the face of a peaceful religion because of the teachings of Christianity. Whereas Islam doesn't. But you got these people, Islam is for peace, Islam is for peace. No, it's not. I've read a lot of the Quran. No, it is not. It's not. It's just simply not. Like that's, and then you look at the founding of Islam and how Islam was founded. How was Islam founded, Marcus? Well, Islam was founded very simply like this. And this isn't I'm not being critical here. I'm going to just follow me. Islam was founded because Muhammad had a vision. He had a vision from an angel, and this is the way things are supposed to be. So he went back to the town where he's from, essentially. And the people said, no, we don't believe you, because they're all polytheistic. They believe in a whole bunch of different gods. So they said, no, we ain't trying to hear nothing you're talking about. And they ran him out of town. So he went, he raised an army, and he came back and he slaughtered everybody. And that's the founding of Islam. Boom. And you're going to tell me that that is a religion based on peace? Really? But when you read the instructions in the Quran, it doesn't say that. You understand? It says, kill anybody that won't convert or tax them heavily. You understand? So it's right in there. It's right in there. And I think, honestly, and this has always been my gripe with the propagation of it, right? This is why ISIS is so successful. ISIS doesn't say that Islam is peaceful. ISIS says that we can kill who we want and we can get rid of them, and that we can rape, maim, and pillage. That's what ISIS says. And that is a good advertisement. What do you mean I can get rid of my enemies? and I can take their stuff? What do you mean? That is awesome. That's why it's very appealing to other people. Why would you not want that? Right? And again, that goes to how they're pushing it. And you'll say, oh, well, that's extremist Islam. No, 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 it's not. That's general Islam. They're just practicing it in a very aggressive way. You understand what I'm saying? Those are the basic foundational tenets as far as that type of activity goes. And other people are out here talking about, oh, it's all about peace. That's not really true. And again, I think that's the difference of where the selling points are. Like you say, Islam's full of peace. ISIS says it's not full of peace, and ISIS gets all the recruits and everything. That's why, because they honest, and people like that type of idea, that concept. I'm not mad. I think that it sounds like really kind of appealing as somebody that is like, wow, you know? So when I compare that to what Christianity has, Christianity is more open about allowing others to do their own thing, right? When you read the scripture, and it's more about encouraging people to learn more about the religion and to follow the teachings and principles. Okay? There's no forced conversion that's required by the Bible. That's just not in there. It's not. And this is something that we really have to have a conversation about, because these people are in there, they're trying to encourage the children on the TikTok, on the Facebook and stuff to go join Islam, and they don't even know about it. And then they support alphabetism. How you support alphabetism talking about you Muslim? No, 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 you don't. Then you're not a real Muslim, you're a fake Muslim. And that's my point, really. These people out here masquerading as fake Muslims, okay, don't know anything about Islam. Islam don't play that alphabet stuff. Like in Dearborn, Michigan, where when they got elected to the city council overwhelmingly, they voted to take down all the pride flags. They don't like you. What do you want about it? And then you get mad and say, well, Christianity, it doesn't like that. Well, it doesn't like that behavior. Because if that is a burden that has been put upon you, because everybody has their own proclivities and they have their own sins that they're predisposed to. Like maybe your sin is drunkenness, right? Like maybe that's your thing. Like maybe you have a tendency to be drunk. Maybe you have a tendency to be lecherous, right? Maybe you have a tendency to do any number of different things. You know, you can even just basically go through the 7 deadly sins, gluttony and stuff like that. America has a real problem with gluttony. That's a big issue. But you can go, everybody has their own proclivities, right? But we have to, as Christians, push back against them. That's the whole point of the religion. You understand? Which again is different from Islam, because Christianity is about denying yourself many things. You know, they said there's been people that have been not Christian, and then they go through and they read the Bible and they say, well, this must have been written by madmen, because why would you deny yourself all of these things and stuff like that? Well, that's the whole point of the religion and the concept of virtuousness as adhered to by the religion. It also talks about how we're not perfect as individuals and we need to keep growing towards the Lord. And that's the real powerful difference, is that we are supposed to continuously be working on being better humans, even if we have our own proclivities. Okay? And this is a very serious thing. So, contrary to what people want to say, yes, Christianity does say that homosexuality is against God. That is a very clear outlined thing. But Christians don't go around killing them. Muslims do. So if you're in a Muslim country, you're going to get murdered. But if you're in a Christian country, you're not going to get murdered. So you might want to think about these things before you push these things. Now, as I go back into the original part of the conversation, and if you're following, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe, especially share. Right now we're live. Make sure you share, make sure you comment, all of that good stuff. Now, as we go back to the original part of the conversation, I thought that this was important because we're going somewhere after this. But as we go back to the first part of the conversation, with everybody being their own special little snowflake, and let a kid be a kid when children aren't kids, okay, because kids are baby goats. We have to go back to what's being taught in the educational system, but not just the educational system. TikTok, the social media, Facebook, all of that stuff. What's on the news? What's on the music and stuff like that? Because that affects the peer groups that the kids are around. Kids, right? Baby goats, easily impressionable, not too bright things, right? That's what they call human children. So it's this concept, and honestly, I think it's a warped concept, that human children need to be coddled. Now, as we talk about these difference in religions, right? Now, the U.S., they'll say, is not a Christian nation as it is. It should be, for sure, 100%. That should be the official religion. Okay, I don't care what anybody has to say. I don't care. I do not care. Do not give me your gift or whatever you want to call it. I'm not with nothing that you're talking about. Oh, it should be secular. It shouldn't have anything. I don't care. I do not agree with you. Because you know why I don't agree with you? Because none of these Muslim countries give a flying monkey's on. Okay, I was on a trip, and we had to stop in Doha, and it was what do you call it? What's the one where you don't eat? Why am I not able to think about it? Ramadan. There we go. And it was Ramadan. We're getting off the plane, and they're like, "Oh no, if you can't take any water off the plane or anything like that, because if you eat or drink off the plane, you'll get arrested." I'm not Muslim. Why should their law, their religious law, apply to me? That's got nothing to do with me. I'm not Muslim. Why I got to not eat and drink? That's their own thing. They want to fast. I don't make them fast when I fast. What's up with that? They don't keep any of our holidays. What's up with that? Should we be forcing our holidays on them? I don't know. Maybe. They want to force their stuff on us, and then we let them come to this country, and we let them do whatever they want. When they have no concept of integrating with our society, oh, I'm going somewhere with this today, you guys. When they have no concept of integrating with our society, and while that might not be every single individual Muslim from every single individual country, that is a massive amount of them. It's a massive amount of them. And I'm not talking about American Muslims, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about imports. Okay? I'm talking about these people that we've got coming over from all of these countries that hate us. Okay? All these countries that hate us just so happen to be Muslim countries, because apparently we like countries where it's sand. We like all these sand countries because all these sand countries got oil. They've also got archaeological things that we don't talk about because that's really some of the stuff that we want to go after, but we don't ever talk about that because you can't talk about the archaeological sites and stuff like that, like the ziggurats and stuff like that. Oh, did those get blown up sometime? Some of those got blown up and stuff like that? Oh, yeah, we can't talk about any of that. Anyway, that's for another episode. But where I'm going with this whole stuff is that American Muslims are different than these imports who do not have any concern or care about our rule of law or about anything else. Now, the concerning part is there that the religion is being sold halfway to the youth because of this whole Palestine thing. And now I see them pushing it in schools. But you can't talk about Christianity in schools, so somebody make it make sense to them. Can we have that conversation? They don't even want you to say Christmas because Christmas might be offensive to somebody. Can somebody make that make sense to them? Hello. No? So again, going back to the original part of it, it's keeping kids deaf, dumb, and blind is essentially what we're doing. And I'm largely focusing this towards the older kids in high school and stuff like that, college age at this point. But I want to go back to the 12, 13, 14-year-olds, right? So this concept of everybody's a winner, everybody's so great, or whatever the case is a lie that's continuing to be propagated, especially the let a kid be a kid, because a human child cannot be a goat unless it's nowadays, and now a human child can be a goat, and they can identify as a goat, or they can identify as a dog, or they can identify as a pig, or whatever, a bird, what is it called, farians, or all this other nonsense. Why? Because Christianity has been taken out of the mix. So now we got all these other nonsenses that is something that's okay. And it's frustrating, right? Because more so than that, on the children, when they push this, oh, let a kid be a kid situation, what are you really teaching them? If you go to one of these, and I'm going to go back again to see, because this is important. You go to one of these other countries, any country in the world, essentially, that's not one of the westernized countries, or even some Eastern European countries. When you're 12 or 13, you are like an adult. In Jewish culture, you got a bach mitzvah and a bar mitzvah around that time. Well, my accent is not too good for my Hebrew, but I'm working on it. Y'all bear with me. Give me some time. Okay. But that's when they're considered to be an adult. But a 13-year-old over here is not as much of an adult as a 13-year-old, let's say, in, let's pick a country, Iran. Let's say Hungary. Okay. You know, as in one of these countries over there. Let's say even Argentina. Because we minimize them as individuals, but at the same time, we tell them that they're their own special little snowflake. So we're cultivating this ridiculous concept of individualism, of individual greatness, without actual production and forward momentum. There is no forward movement there. They are stunting the children. They are literally, by the definition, retarding the children. They are. Absolutely. That's what they're doing. They're preventing them from growth. That's the definition of retarded. Okay? That's what it is. That's what they're doing. But can we have that conversation? No? No, we can't have that conversation, even though it's a very important conversation to have. And if you're listening, I want you to make sure that you share, like, and subscribe. Definitely share. Definitely do that. Like and subscribe. And I want to let you guys know that you're tuned in to The Divide with Marcus C. Williams on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. If you guys would like to support the show, donate or whatever the case is to the show, go online, send me an email, marcuswilliams222 at outlook.com. That's marcuswilliams222 at outlook.com. Okay? And say you want to help sponsor the show and support the show. Now, if you'd like to support my campaign for State Assembly, you can definitely do that too. Go to my website. You don't even have to be local. www.marcus4rochester.com. That's Marcus4rochester.com. All right. So as we get back into the limitation of the mental acumen of the children is a very, very discouraging situation, because we see how it impacts these young adults now, the young Gen Z, the young millennials. We see how they think and how they move. It's weird. Like, it's weird. And you say, well, Marcus, what do you mean it's weird? Not normal. But aside from that, I mean, it's westernized, what do you call it? Westernized industrial, rich, educated, democratic nations. It's that type of thought process that they have, the vast majority of them. Because it's not just in the US, it's something that's also being done in other countries like the UK and like other parts of Europe, like France. Well, France has always been like that. They don't even have an age of consent. Okay, they tried to make one a couple of years ago, but I don't even know if that went through. And that was after like an 11-year-old girl became pregnant and then couldn't carry the baby to term. That was a crazy situation because they didn't have an age of consent. And we're talking about in the modern age. We're talking about just a couple of years ago, like not like the 1950s. We're talking about just a couple of years ago. But again, that's the point that I'm getting to. That right there, that age of consent, right? That we in America have an age of consent. Why do we even have an age of consent? Because the concept is mental maturity, right? Again, what does that even mean? Because it's not physical maturity. Because the concept is when a young lady bleeds, that then she is a woman. right? That's the whole concept of that. You know, in Spanish culture, you've got quinceañeras still. That's 15. She's a woman. You understand? So where are we coming up with these ages for consensual intercourse? It's a very serious conversation we need to have when the schools and the education system and everything else is limiting the ability for the youth to understand what being an actual adult means, to understand what responsibility means, to understand what actually being a part of a family or being able to provide for a family is, and the responsibilities that go along with that. Heck, we can't even barely figure out what gender roles are anymore, right? And that's a big issue. That's why our society is falling to pieces. We've got women supposedly leading everything, and we know that women lead with their emotions. And that is a serious issue when it comes to raising boys. Men need their fathers. Girls need their fathers. We know statistically, okay, and this is a real thing. You go look it up. We know statistically that for greater chance of success in life and better production as an individual, you either need to be in a two-family home or you need to be in a father-only home. Neither of those are a single mother. Now, you might say, oh, well, Marcus, I'm a single mother and I'm so good and I'm so great. Maybe you are. Maybe we're not talking about you, right? But you would be an exception to the rule. Because the fact of the matter is now we have all of these fake thugs out here running around all emotional, wanting to shoot up and fight people and stab people and all types of stuff because they can't control their emotions. Because they can't control their emotions. Now we have over emotional females because they had no father in their life and they can't control their emotions either. And now you've been told that females can be men and men can be females and females can do whatever a man can do and men can do whatever a female can do and anything you can do, I can do better. It's all garbage and bogus. You've been lied to. Women can't do everything a man can do. Men can't do everything a woman can do. Otherwise, there would be no difference. But they're fastly trying to push this transgender nonsense on people, so much so that they've now said that there is no more LGBT, okay? That all of that falls under the concept of being trans. Now, hold on now. The concept of being trans is to rip and strip away the actual identity of sex and gender. That's that whole concept. Now, gay and lesbians, they specifically identify as people that like the same sex. So why are you're out here erasing them? And then saying, oh, everything is trans now? This is what's happening. But we can't have this conversation because nobody wants to have this conversation. And we, as a society, are doing a disservice to the children. And the children are the future, but if we're bringing them up wrong and we're minimizing them and we're legitimately, again, retarding the children, limiting their ability to grow mentally, okay, that's what's being done, okay? Because you're keeping them small. That's what you want to do. That's why they say let a kid be a kid, because you don't want them to grow up. And then you're like, oh, well, these kids don't know how to take care of their children or whatever the case is, because you never let them grow up. You never taught them what responsibility was. You never showed them what it was important of a comprehensive household, of having a mother and a father in the household. And now alphabetism, I don't even know what to say, right? Because it's bothersome because I have to make sure that when I'm talking about this, that many times I have to differentiate from the L, G, and the B, okay? Which I don't even really consider the B to be part of any of that. And that's a whole separate conversation for another day. But you got to separate the L and the G from the T when you have a conversation. Because a lot of the stuff that you talk about, the L and the G, isn't applied to the T because the T, again, is trying to erase the L and the G. And it's a very serious issue. But the fact of the matter goes back to the point that now they're teaching kids that boys don't have to be boys and girls don't have to be girls. And this comes after all of this ridiculous, what are we in? Fourth wave feminism now? You know, it started off, oh, men can do whatever, women can do whatever men can do. You know, Then it went to, oh, women don't need men. Then it went to, oh, women are as good as men and they should be in power over everything. And now it's that men can be women. What is going on here? What are we teaching the children? And this is stuff that they want to put in schools. It's already in many schools. You see them alphabet flags in there, you better understand and know that you got some freaking weirdos in there, okay? Not some normal alphabet people. You got some extra weirdos, okay? And they're probably pushing that nonsense on your children. And you need to check out what's going on in those schools for real, okay? Because that shouldn't be part of your. I didn't even know who my teachers' boyfriends and wives and husbands were growing up. I didn't know that. I didn't know their sexual orientation, and I don't need to know their sexual orientation to learn. It's got nothing to do with anything. I don't care about anybody's sexual orientation. I don't care about what you do in your bedroom. That's you. And if that's again, and if you got a problem with that, hey, I don't know what to tell you because I don't care. Just keep your business out of my face. I don't want to see it. I don't want to think about it, and I don't care. Do you, boo boo? But that's real, and that's too real. Like many people don't even really want it. What they say, public displays of affection, PDA, right? Like that was a thing, and they used to be like, "Oh, get a room," you know? "Oh, get a room." Be kissing and holding hands and being all lovey-dovey in public. "Oh, get a room," right? And that was straight people, you know? Like people don't. That's not a thing for everybody. That is your own personal stuff. But now they try to say, "Oh, well, that's what everybody else is doing, so this is okay." Well, but it's not. It's not. And the conditioning that's happening in our schools to our children, again, and this is what I keep going back to, because this is the whole topic of this conversation today, is what's being done to the children. You're introducing them to all of this hypersexuality. And this is my real point here. So if you're following, make sure that you subscribe, you like, and definitely share. Share, especially right now, right here. What's happened with the children is they have been told so much that a child should stay in a child's place, let a kid be a kid, that they have been limited at their ability to reason. Like you don't want to have a full conversation with children. You don't want them to be able to reason out. You don't want them to, a child should stay in a child's place, right? What if the child has something to add? Can we have that conversation? No, they don't want that because that would be too much like critical thinking, and that would be a child becoming more mature and becoming as an adult. And they don't want that. That's why they rip critical thinking out of schools. That's why most of the people think that all this nonsense that's going on is okay, especially with this free Palestine nonsense jihadism that we've got going on. They don't even know what they're fighting for. They don't even know what they're doing. They're being used as a tool by the elites against the American people and against other countries. They're foolish. They've been misled. And you can't tell them that they've been misled because they've got no critical thinking. When you attempt to engage with them, they're like, nah, 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 nah. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I'm putting my fingers in my ears if you're listening on the radio, like you did as a little kid, and with my eyes closed, la, 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 I can't hear you. That's what they do. As grown adults, they don't want to have this conversation because they can't have this conversation because they do not have the mental capacity and the mental faculty to have these conversations because critical thinking has been stolen from our youth. Because of this faulty educational system and this ridiculous concept of let a kid be a kid, a child needs to stay in a child's place, and at no point are they taught how to be an adult or how to think reasonably. Critical thinking is absolutely gone. That's why all of these people out here want to be lecturers and whoremongers and slurs and stuff like that. That's why all these people out here want to be all part of the alphabet people. That's why all of these people out here want to be part of the Free Palestine thing. So they can feel like they're part of something desperately, anything, because they are desperately trying to fill a hole and a void that can only be filled by our Father who art in heaven, the Lord. But they don't have that. They don't have that because they don't have a reasoning capacity. And that's a real serious issue. You say, oh, well, Marcus, you talk about God too much. Why? Why is that too much? It's not my fault if you feel convicted that I speak about the Lord. That's an issue between you and the Lord, and you need to go read the Bible, because that's probably the Lord convicting you, and you feeling it, and you feeling that tug that you need to look into the Bible. And that's something between you and me, and you and me as a whole conversation that we can have. But you need to go check out the Lord, because he teaches you better than I can. It's all in the Bible. Go check it out. I hope that seed is planted, and may you water that seed. Okay, may that seed blossom, and may you turn to the Lord Jesus Christ and his teachings of how to become closer to our Father who art in heaven, the creator of our universe. But going back to what I'm talking about, people trying to fill that hole, that void, and the critical reasoning and stuff like that. I talked earlier about kids identifying as animals, right? How's a kid going to identify as an animal? What level of capacity do you have to be thinking that you're an animal? Is that like the 3-year-old that says, when I grow up, I want to be a fire truck? Is that what that is? Can we have that conversation? Because you got 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds talking about I'm a bird. Now you got young adults, 23, 24, 25, talking about I'm a cat, I'm a dog. I'm about to go put you in the daggone kennel. Something wrong with you. You got mental health issues that we can't even address, because now they're telling you that these people with these mental health issues that want you to go along with their psychosis, that you should go along with their psychosis. And if you don't go along with their psychosis, you're wrong. I'm not wrong that they don't have the critical thinking skills to understand that as a human, you can't be a dog. What are you, retarded? Oh, wait. Yes, they are retarded, because the educational system has made sure that they are retarded, because they have limited their ability to grow mentally. It is a purposeful retardation. And people get offended by that word retard, right? Because they say, oh, well, it's a derogatory term. It's to who? To who? Who is it a derogatory term to? This is with all this emotionalness that comes from all these women, okay? And you know that the women are just being manipulated by their emotions, and ain't nobody gonna like this. Somebody gonna feel some type of way about this. I'm sure somebody feel about some type of way about this show right now. Whatever you feel, make sure that you comment, okay? I'd love to hear your comments. But here's the deal. They are manipulating all of the women because they know that they're emotional, because they've limited their ability to critical think. Now they're even more so emotional, because they've cultivated this brainwashing concept of that, oh, women don't need a man, women don't need a man, okay? Women are just as equal as men, okay? Women are better than men, right? Now we're going even further. Women are better than men. And now they don't even know what a woman is. It's disgusting. It makes me want to spit. It's bad, people. They don't even know what a woman is. And they're going to tell you, oh, well, I think this about women. Now Kamala Harris is a woman. Don't even get me started there. I can't even. The whole thing is a front. They had Ketanji Brown Jackson. She couldn't even define what a woman is. And now all of a sudden Kamala Harris is a woman. How do I know that? How do I know Kamala Harris is a woman? Y'all couldn't tell me what a woman was before. Now all of a sudden she's a woman. Ketanji Brown Jackson was supposed to be a black woman, but she couldn't define what a woman was. How y'all supposed to tell me what a woman is? Now y'all out here telling me that Kamala Harris is a woman. This isn't a swipe at her or a swipe at Ketanji Brown Jackson, but it's a swipe at that whole concept and that whole thinking. They are limiting your ability to think, and they are making you retarded. And that's it. That's what's happening. Okay, but people can't talk about that, because when you say stuff like that, that really makes sense, that people really need to dig down into, they don't want you to do that. You guys, this is a serious issue, because we're limiting the growth of our society, because we're limiting the growth of the children, because we're limiting the ability for them to be able to reason or even to know what the responsibilities and the duties are of an adult. And because we've stepped so far away from the Bible and from Christ, that's it. We are where we are, right? We need a national revival. We need an American revival. That's what we need. We really desperately do. A return to our traditions and a return to the Bible and the scriptural teachings. And people will say, oh, I'm not trying to hear nothing of what you're talking about, because you're completely avoiding the insanity that is going outside, where they're teaching kids that they can be a dog and that they should go pee in a box because they are an animal. This is a real thing. These are real things that are happening. People say, no, it's not happening, until they see it themselves, and then they ignore it and they're like, oh, no, it's okay. You know, I seen them clowning. I think this was in Denver the other day. This was at a high school. This girl was walking around this other girl on a leash, because the girl was like, she identified as a dog or whatever. And the kids were clowning her. The kids were clowning her. And people were like, oh, that's not nice. No, it's right. 100%. She's sick. She needs mental health. Something's wrong with her. Something wrong with her. You out here acting like a whole dog at school. Something wrong with you. Something wrong with you. Okay, that's weird. Okay. They only do that in weird countries. You do that somewhere in Africa, you do that somewhere in South America, they're going to lock your behind up. They're going to say that you sick because you sick. But we encourage this. And it's more so encouraged, again, because that critical thinking has been stolen from our youth, from our children, because they want to say, oh, they're a baby goat. And like I said, I do not take a baby goat to be too terribly intelligent. And that's why the children are not too terribly intelligent. And that's why they're so easily susceptible to all of these lies that are put out there and all this propaganda that is put out there. And then we wonder why we've got these crazy jihadists, American jihadists, out here terrorizing our monuments and writing death to America and stuff on them, and nobody's doing anything. Because they've been taught that this type of stuff is okay, and they don't have the critical reasoning capacity to understand that it's not. And this is a serious conversation that we need to have, but nobody wants to have this serious conversation. And this is a very serious problem. A very, very serious problem. But as we go into that, I want to shift the conversation a little bit. Remember, share and subscribe. If you're watching right now, definitely share, definitely subscribe. You know, somebody earlier told me, they said they don't like me because I'm homophobic. I've never been scared of a gay person in my life. I got a lot of friends that are gay. Okay. I got a lot of friends. Do I have to separate gay and lesbians? You know, because that's all one thing. You know, it all used to be homosexual. Now you got to make sure you differentiate, and maybe they're non-binary and all this other nonsense. I don't go past that. It's homosexual. All that other stuff is nonsense. Okay. Demisexual, pansexual, trans, what non-gender confirmed. I'm not with that. I'm not with that. Just because you want to be psychotic and have a psychosis does not mean that I have to participate in your psychosis, and I'm not about to do it. It's not about to happen. It's not about to happen. But they got these laws that they keep pushing now in the U.S. and in New York State, where they're trying to make it illegal if I don't address you by your pronouns. I don't know what your pronouns are, and I don't care. And I'm not about to sit there and play with you over some pronouns. Talking about your pronoun is ghost and ghost self. You need a slap is what you need. What's wrong with you? Are you hysterical? That's what they used to do. You remember the movies? Somebody would used to be hysterical, and then they'd slap them to bring them back to normalcy. Be like, get a grip of yourself, you know, and shake them a little bit. And this is what needs to happen. These people need to get a grip of themselves. Gender non-conforming. What does that mean? Tomboy? Tomgirl? I don't care. Okay? Shoot. Were you born with wedding tackle or not? You understand what I'm saying? Well, we can't have those conversations because they don't want you to have those conversations. I got friends that are, I guess you would call them now, transgender, but they're not even really transgender, right? Like they're more so she-males, or what do you call it? What's the other one? Transsexuals, right? Like that was what it was before this whole tranny nonsense, because it's not tranny, right? It's transgender. It's gone to a completely different narrative. They've just co-opted that identity, and now they're saying that boys should cut off their boy parts and be a girl, and a girl should cut off their girl parts or manipulate their girl parts and be a boy. That's insane, because they're saying that that's transitioning. right? That's transitioning. So because it says transitioning, that's why they want to call it trans. But that's not the same thing as people that would consider themselves females or transsexuals, stuff like that. Because those are dudes with wedding tackle and boobs. They know what they are. They're not confused about themselves. It's like lady boys in Thailand. They're not confused. They know that they're men. They call themselves lady boys. But over here in America, they want you to say that, oh, I'm a woman. Call me ma'am. Right? Be a whole dude wearing a dress, got more hair than a bear. LOL, both puns intended there. Got more hair than a bear, okay? Wearing a dress, talking about, I'm a woman. What woman? You ain't no woman. You's a whole man. Then they got the nerve to be all loud and aggressive with you, like they a man. If you a woman, be feminine and dainty. You're not even trying. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you're not even trying. Like, remember when they used to try? Like, that's not even, that shows you a very large difference from where we've come from to where we are. And people just let it happen. And now they're trying to make this acceptable. Well, guess what? It's not acceptable at all. It's not acceptable at all. If you're a man in a dress, you don't belong in a woman's restroom, period. And I'm not about to call you ma'am. Stop it. Then they got all these surgeries and all of this other nonsense, gender bender nonsense confusion that they're trying to do. No, absolutely not. Still not a woman, still not a man. It's not real. That's a sickness. You want to do all of that? Perfectly fine if you're an adult. But they're trying to do this to the children now. You want to do that as an adult? That's perfectly fine. But if you want to look at like you as a woman and you was born a man, you still a man. Say that. You understand? I'm not going to look at you no type of other way. Just don't tell me that you was a female when you're not a female. Don't tell me that you's a man when you're not a man. Not that there's a lot of men that want to be women that want to be men. It's women that want to act like men, but not a lot of women that want to actually be men, because being a man is hard. They had that lady that wrote a book. I can't remember the name of the book. I think we might have talked about it on the show before. But she wrote a book, be it My Life as a Man, or Being a Man, or I'm the Man. I think it was called I'm the Man or something like that. But she wrote the book about, she was trying to stay being a man for 2 years and investigating what it's like to be a man. She only lasted about a year and she couldn't do it anymore because she said it's absolutely terrible. It's so hard being a man because men are treated so bad and there's no support network for them, and there's nobody is nice to them, and women treat them like trash and all this and all of that. And it's true, it's a real thing. Why would females want to sign up for that nonsense? Most of them don't. But they want to behave like man. They want to get rah-rah in your face, especially these ghetto hood boogers. I said what I said, okay? I said exactly what I said. You're not men. You're not. And you're getting all rah-rah like you are. That's the problem. That's the whole problem. You're supposed to be a female. You're supposed to be feminine. You're supposed to be dainty, okay? If you want to be a tomboy, that still don't mean that you got to act like you's a man. It means that you might like more traditionally male pursuits. You might like to play football. You might like to do construction and work with your hands. It doesn't make you not a female. You know what I'm saying? And for me, I like and respect rough and tumble females. You know, but that's a thing for me, because I feel like strength is important, not just strength of physicality, but strength of character and strength of conviction. That's very important to me. You know, I come from a family of very strong women, but it didn't make them any not feminine. It didn't make them men. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that's a very big issue. Like, they got this whole concept, let a child stay in a child's place. Well, why don't you say let a woman be in a woman's place? Right? Like, is that not, when you say something like that, then it's a problem. Well, maybe we should have that conversation. What's the difference? What's the real difference? Because women don't actually want to be men. They still want to be females, and they want to get all the extra love and affection and caring and nice stuff, and they want to be a female, but they want to be all rough and in your face and aggressive and act like they can't get knocked down. You want to act like a man, maybe I should punch you in the throat like a man when you try to act like you somebody that you ain't in my face. But then if you put your hands on a woman, you got to identify as a woman. You understand what I'm saying? But this woman that want to act like a man, all in your face, putting their hands on you and stuff, and they don't want you to put your hands on them. Listen, equal rights, equal fights, period. End of story. You balls enough to get in somebody's face and put hands on somebody, okay, or go all rah-rah in their face, you got enough balls to get hands put on you, period. Don't get all rah-rah in somebody's face and not expect to get your wig knocked back. Are we being serious right now? But this is the concept. And they want to make women all super soft. No, well, she's just a woman. Well, why is she in this man's face so aggressive? Why is she putting hands on this man? Why is she throwing stuff? Well, men are stronger than women. Are they? Because you're the same people that want to put men in women's sports. Make it make sense. You want to put men in women's sports, saying that that's right. That's what should be done. No, it shouldn't. Men should be in men's sports. Women should be in women's sports. If you want to open a, what do you call it? There's a word for it. Is it intramural? No, that's not the word. What's the word for a combined team? I don't remember what it's called, but there's a word for it in sports where you have a combined team, combined genders, or whatever it's called. It doesn't matter. But if that's what you want to do, you do that. But the women shouldn't be on a men's team, and the men shouldn't be on a women's team. Men's are going to dominate in the women's all the time. We've gone so far with this ridiculous nonsense and thought process that now men are the best women. Somebody make it make sense. Like, wasn't it all, down with the patriarchy and everything? Well, it looks like the patriarchy won that because now men are the best women. It's insane to me. But this is because of the education that is being taught to the children. What's being pumped inside the children's head. And they have no critical thinking or reasoning ability because it wasn't taught to them in school or by their parents. And so now they believe all of this stuff is normal. It's not normal. It's a sickness. There is a massive sickness all across the Western world. All across the Western world, especially America. And we try to export it to other countries. If you don't want to go get around with the alphabet agenda, then we're not going to give you any money. Why they got to go with the alphabet agenda? That's not in their culture. That ain't got nothing to do with them. You want that in your country, you keep that in your country. But the problem is, and again, this goes back to them trying to erase the lesbians and the gay people, the gay men. They're trying to erase them and say, oh, now all of that is trans. Do you see that they're slowly moving to get rid of you completely? Like, you guys need to stand up against that insanity. That's what they're doing. Because they want to make it so nobody has to be any gender or anything. Because at the end of the day, the whole goal is now they're pushing this IVF, right? Now, we haven't heard much for years about IVF, right? Now, this is going to be interesting facts. I'm going to give you some interesting facts. So to start off, the number one export in America is blood. That's our number one export in America is blood. Makes you want to think twice about going to give blood because your question is, where is that blood going? Clearly not in this country if it's the largest export. And somehow it's the largest export that we have, but we never have any blood. We always have a blood shortage. How is that possible if it's our number one export? How about we stop exporting the blood? Hello. Oy. Okay. Now they've even made the rules less hard so you can donate blood. You can have all of these. You used to not be able to if you had like HIV and AIDS and all this other nonsense. And now they want your blood too. No, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, if they ever need to give me a transfusion and it is not of my own blood or not from somebody that I say is okay, please don't let them give it to me. I don't want it. I would prefer to go the way of the dodo and not exist anymore because I do not want anybody else's blood inside. Period. I don't trust it. I don't know where they got it from. I don't know what they put in it. I don't know what was in it to begin with. And I don't trust none of it. Period. End of story. And this is real serious, especially with them starting to put these mRNA shots and stuff in people that actually works to modify the genes and stuff like that, because that's how they work. It's gene modification. And I don't want that, not because it's gene modification, but because I don't want a company that does that to later on say that they own me because they have their genes that they have, what do you call it? Patented inside my body. I don't want none of that. You're like, oh, Marcus, that wouldn't happen. It happens with food. It happens with food and GMO crops. Do you know if you have corn? Okay, if you have corn and your corn is heirloom corn, and there's a farm with GMO corn right next to yours, and the GMO corn cross pollinates your corn, that they can come and confiscate all your corn, and it's happened. It's happened. India had a big issue with that, and Facebook was a part of that, and so was Bill Gates, and that's a whole big thing. Go look it up. That's a real thing. Who's that lady? That lady that fought back against that so hard. What is her name? Oh my goodness, I'm not able to think of her name. But there's this Indian lady that fought against that really hard. I'm not able to remember her name right now. I apologize. That would be a good thing for you guys to look up. But anyway, you look that up, you'll probably find her. Varagata Shiva or something like that, maybe. I don't know, something like that. Sounds about right. Anyway, but they can take your food because it got cross-pollinated by their GMO products. So why wouldn't they be able to do that with DNA, having their modifications in it that they've patented? Why wouldn't they be able to do that? You understand what I'm saying? So it's not too far off that we're at the point of that being happening. You might say, oh, well, Marcus, that would never happen. Did I not just tell you what happens with the food? Are you not familiar with our country and the way businesses work? Aren't you guys that say, oh, that would never happen? The same people that say that the government is corrupt and big business is corrupt, and both of them are against the people? And you tell me that that would never happen? Of course it would. It's probably happening right now. And as they go on with these things, and this is why I'm getting back to the IVF situation, right? Like, I think it's a good concept that there is IVF. I think we might have talked about this. No, I think we talked about IVF on the Elephant in the Room show, which is, I encourage you, check out my podcast, Elephant in the Room, 6:30 to 7:30 Sundays. You can catch it on my Facebook or on my X or on my YouTube, the Marcus C. Williams channel, and soon it'll be on Rumble, also the Marcus C. Williams channel. But check that out. That's a little bit of a different format, and we talk about different things. But yeah, so with the IVF, so in vitro fertilization, right? So they fertilize the embryo, fertilize the egg and create an embryo outside of the mother, and then they put it back inside, allegedly, right? But they take out a lot of the eggs and they fertilize a lot of the eggs. What ends up happening is a lot of them end up being destroyed or used for experiments. But we can't talk about that. So that was the whole issue with, I want to say it was Mississippi or maybe it was Alabama, where they put a law forward after this IVF clinic. This is where this whole craziness about the IVF started kicking off, saying, oh, Republicans want to ban IVF. That was a lie. What happened is that an IVF clinic got broken into, and there weren't enough security precautions to stop somebody from destroying all of these people's embryos. So the state said, no, you got to make sure that there are security precautions enforced so that people can't be destroying other people's children. Aha, that's the problem, right? Because now it's a fertilized egg, it's an embryo now. Now they're like, oh, well, you can't do that because that embryo is a person, it has personhood. And that parent or whatever can sue you for killing their children. And they were like, oh, no, you can't do that, because they know that they ain't no good, and they know that their hands aren't clean. They know that they're selling a lot of these baby body parts for experiments and stuff like that, and especially the embryo. Those things are very, very valuable, people. I don't think you guys understand. Like, they are very valuable. And if people are just giving them to you, you only need one to have a baby, right? If people just giving them to you, you just sell them and you're making a ton of profit. Again, going back to blood donation, what's up with that, really? But we can't have those conversations. But that was the whole concept, that if these embryos are destroyed, that the parents of those children have recourse. So they didn't, the IVF clinic said, oh, no, you can't do that. So then they started that whole narrative that Republicans wanted to get rid of IVF because the IVF clinic said, we're not putting any security in place, and we're not going to be held accountable for any embryos that are destroyed, because they destroy them all the time, or sell them very regular. And they're not right, guys. And that's where that whole concept came from. They're not trying to outlaw IVF. They want to make it so that the parents have recourse if their embryos, their children, unborn children, are destroyed, as they should have such a recourse. Why would you not want that recourse available to them? Do you hate parents? Do you hate people that are trying to get IVF? Why would you not want them to be able to sue somebody for destroying their embryos? Why wouldn't you want that? Are you a monster? Question mark. So if you really understood what's really going on, you'd be more concerned. Now that we're talking about that, we need to have a conversation on these giant gestation farms that they're building. They're working on building all of these artificial wombs and stuff like you might see in the movies to grow children en masse. There's a plant that's actually sponsored by Israel, that's by an Israel firm, that's being built in New Jersey to grow embryos en masse into children without actual parents, with artificial wombs or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what you call it. In stasis, maybe? I don't know. There's got to be a better word to explain what it is. But just think of like a pod that they're growing the baby in. You know, think of it if you've seen something like that in a movie, right? So, and they're starting this. This is a business. This is a business. It's going to be a massive, massive business. What they're trying to do is they're trying to make it so that's the only way to have children. You know, it started with the CRISPR and the gene editing of children, and this is just the next step. This is just the next step. You know, what's his name? What's that guy's name? Oh my goodness. Jamaroni, or whatever that guy's name is. Oh my God, he had that song. I wish I had my other phone so I could look it up. Virtual Insanity. Go look that song up. Go look that song up, because that's exactly what we're living in. I feel like that song came out in like 98 or something like that. And everything that he's singing about in that song, Virtual Insanity, is exactly what is happening. I wish I had my other phone so I could look at the lyrics to read it to you. That song is crazy, but that's what's happening. You know, it's not nature's way, like he says in the song. It's not nature's way. And it's crazy because this is being propagated as normalcy, and it's being woven into the fabric of society because they don't want you to have children naturally, because they want to be able to control the children. Y'all got to wake up. You don't got to wake up, right? Like, the message is for the people that are willing to listen and willing to hear, but you got to wake up. You got to wake up. There are much more serious things at risk right here, right now, that we're not talking about at all. Kind of like how Tim Walz doesn't want to talk about the 6 hostages that were found dead over in Israel. He don't want to talk about that. He ran away from the cameras when they asked him about that the day before yesterday. That's crazy. Where's Harris talking on these issues? She didn't say one thing. Not a nip, not a bub, not a beep. We got our hostages over there in Israel right now. Nobody's trying to do anything about it. Don't ask me what to do about it. I'd turn that place to a whole pile of rubble to get my people back, and I wouldn't have cared what Israel had to say about it. Okay? Because they got my people. So they got our people. We need to go in there, okay? Like the heaven divers, right? Like, not the hell divers, right? But we need to go in there full force and get our people back. They don't want to give our people back, turn it to a parking lot. You understand what I'm saying? Honestly, I gotta be honest. I don't think that any of the hostages, the rest of them, I don't think they're alive. That's a big conversation. But the other conversation is most of them aren't even being held by Hamas or anything like that, because there's a bunch of other little smaller groups that are in there that were part of that crazy raid. But we can't even talk about that because everything is so Hamas. Even these crazy American jihadists don't even understand what the heck's going on over there. So it's frustrating. It gets really, really frustrating with everything that's going on. When I see our elected officials, this lady talking about she want to be the president, she's the vice president right now, won't do anything for our people who have been kidnapped. We got problems. I don't care what you feel about a peace treaty or a ceasefire or a 2-state solution. I don't care about none of that. Give us our people back, period, or we're going to erase your whole lineage. We're going to level the tallest and the smallest building in there. Okay? You do not take Americans hostage. There used to be this concept where you don't take Americans, we don't negotiate with terrorists, but now we negotiate with terrorists. Absolutely not. Let me tell you one thing. If I ever get kidnapped, nuke the whole freaking country that it's in. Nuke the whole country. Don't try to save me. Nuke it. Nuke the whole country. Turn the whole country to glass. That's how I really feel. Okay? Like, you don't take American citizens. We don't play those games. Our citizens, our men at arms, okay, that is real serious. That is real serious. You know, as we are here on this Labor Day, it's very important that I remind you that when Labor Day came about, we weren't paying taxes. There was no income tax. If the government wanted money, they had to levy bonds, and people had to buy the bonds, and the government had to pay them back. We didn't used to have taxes when Labor Day came, okay? But now we got taxes, income tax. Government charging too much. I just wanted to get that out there. That wasn't what I wanted to make the whole thing about, but I just want to put that out there as it is Labor Day. So disgusting. Makes you want to spit for real. But here's the deal. As we move forward as a nation, as we move forward as a people, there are more conversations that we need to have than what we're having, because people feel as though they might be offended, because people feel as though their feelings might be hurt. All of that extra feminine, foo-foo, softy nonsense is not the way that we move our country forward. We need to get back to having strong men again. We need to get back to men that aren't women. We need to get back to women that aren't men. And we need to get back to women that are women. You know, and it's crazy to me because we forget and neglect our own history at our own risk. There used to be a time in World War II when all of the people, part of it, but really World War II, when it was all hands on deck and women had to go into industry, right? Talk about whether that was a whole plan and a whole game against America. That's a separate conversation. But women went into industry, and they were taking up all these manufacturing jobs and other jobs that traditionally were done by men and stuff like that. But they knew they were women. They wore dresses and stuff. They didn't think they were men. They didn't try to be men. But this is where we are right now. And it's a very serious issue that has destroyed and eroded our whole country, our way of life, and our people. Now we got these illegal aliens coming in. They know what a man and a woman is. They know who does what role. And they out here stomping a mud hole in our American citizens. And the government won't even do nothing about it because they're the ones who let them in here. Look at Aurora. The illegal aliens took over a whole apartment complex, and the government won't even do nothing about it. The other day, there was two school buses that the illegal aliens tried to hijack in California. And the government won't do nothing about it. And the government is trying to make it so that illegal aliens can be policed and be in the military. Are you serious right now? Absolutely not. They need to go back to their country. And we got to be real serious about this. Real serious about this. None of them should be here. All of them should go back. We need to do something about this. This is very, very serious, and it's only going to get worse. And I've said it before. I'm pretty sure I said it on this show, but I say it very frequently. They're going to use them as an armed mercenary force against the American people. Pray that our military does not have to go to any foreign wars, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to try to draft our men, especially, and send them overseas so that they can't fight on the homeland because of the shenanigans that's about to get pulled. I promise you, as I speak and as you listen, share this message with everybody. As I speak and as you listen, okay, they are going to use these illegal aliens as a mercenary force against the American people. That's why they are funding their life. That's why they are paying for their housing. That's why they are paying for their food, so that they become indentured to the government, okay, and dependent on the government. And two things are going to come out of this. They'll use them as a mercenary force against the American people, and they'll also use them as a tool of crime to destabilize our cities. This is what's happening. We're seeing it right now. You guys got to wake up. You got to wake up. It's a much larger game at play than what we are actually seeing. And that's why I try to encourage everybody to get active on the local level of politics, because if we do not, It's going to start at home. It's in our backyard. Right now, we got all these illegal aliens sitting down here in the downtown hotel looking pretty, and they ain't giving other people in the rest of the county food stamps that they need, or and they ain't paying for their rent, but they paying for these illegal aliens. Explain it to me like I'm five. Make it make sense. American money for American people only. I don't even think we should send our money overseas. I don't even think we should be giving most of these people loans, especially these daggone zero interest loans. Don't play in my face. Where can an American citizen get a zero interest loan? Now in California, they wouldn't bring a reparations bill forward for Black Americans because they were concerned that Governor Newsom would veto it, and that most of the Democrats in the state of, I think they have a state. Do they have a state house? What do they call their people? I think it's state assembly. Yeah, they call them state assembly over there. Their state assembly and their state senators wouldn't vote for it that are Democrats. That's a Democrat state, but they got a bill over there for illegal aliens to fund them with a $30,000 home down payment and a zero interest loan for housing. How they get that, and American citizens can't even get that? First of all, that's bad economics. Okay, that don't work. But the point is how do illegal aliens get that at all? How do they qualify? That's money that should be going to American citizens. And it's really real. It's really ever so real. But we can't have those conversations. And it's very important that we do. And they wonder why people are so separate from each other and divided and stuff like that. Because there are people that just don't see these issues that we're seeing every day are happening because they're being told and cultivated that this stuff isn't happening. Because again, the educational system has made them retarded. And you say, Marcus, what are you talking about? Well, that's again back to what I said earlier. If you're just tuning in, make sure you go back and catch the earlier part of the show online on X or on Facebook or Twitter or wherever. Well, X is Twitter, but on YouTube, check out the Marcus C. Williams channel. Okay, coming soon to add on Rumble. But if you are on Rumble, subscribe to my channel on Rumble. I'm about to add all the uploads there. Rumble's a little different to get the stuff on there. But as I was saying, we need to focus on the American people. We really do. They have made the American people so, they have restricted and retarded. Again, that's the only definition of the word that would work to fit there. They have made it impossible for people to have cognitive ability. They have prevented them actively from having cognitive ability and mental growth. That's the definition. You're preventing something from growth. That's what it is. And that's what they're doing, especially mentally. And people really believe that what we're seeing with our own eyes is not what's going on and that we should just completely ignore it. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. That's insane. And we can't do that. We need to say, hey, these things are things that are going on and we need to identify them and we need to get loud about them. Look at the crazy American jihadists. These people out in there talking about death to America, save Palestine, all of this other nonsense, destroy buildings and destroy monuments and stuff like that. They're all loud about that. Where are we being loud about these very serious issues in our country? What is happening? Where is these protests on the level for the illegal aliens, right? Where's that happening at? Well, New York City, they're doing it. Stand up, New York. I love y'all. Okay? So it's real. Good job, y'all. Okay? The ones that are standing up, y'all know who y'all are. I appreciate you greatly. Okay? But we need more people to stand up. We need more people to get active. There are very serious things going on. And to go back to the other issue that I was talking about, forcing people to identify you as the way that you identify and stuff like that, we've got a amendment to the Constitution in New York State coming, the state constitution. It's going to be called Prop 1, and I'm going to encourage you to vote no on that because people will say, oh, it's about this or it's about that. It's not about any of that. What it's about is very simply editing our current Equal Rights Amendment, which we have one of those, which protects race, color, creed, sex, and all of that stuff. But they're trying to add in things like no discrimination against gender, which goes back to the first part of my conversation, where now, what is the actual age of consent? If you can consent to anything at any age and you can't discriminate on age, how can you have an age of consent? And that's a very serious issue to me. not just because there wouldn't be you couldn't have an age of consent, but because the youth would not be able to cognitively understand to consent to something like that, because you've made it so they have no critical thinking, because you've made them retarded. You've retarded them. That's what you've done. You've prevented them from having the mental growth and the mental capacity to even say, yes, I would like to engage with sex or not. They don't have the cognitive ability to do that. So essentially, to me personally, for the majority of the youth, that is malicious malintent and rape. So as they're going down this path, it's a very serious problem, because that opens the door for that. It also opens the door for men to be on women's sports teams. That's scary. Okay, and men to be in women's bathrooms and stuff like that. That's a serious problem. Could you imagine if you've got a daughter and she's going in the park to go to the public restroom, and she's in the girls' room, and there's this giant 46-year-old man, okay, that is in there with her? You wouldn't like that. That's weird. That's weird. That's weird. And not to say anything aside from that, it's unsafe. And we know that they've been trying to kidnap little girls and little boys like that. And it's happened. We've got records of it. We need to have that conversation, but people don't want to have that conversation. But it's very important that we talk about these things openly and seriously. Because if we don't, then they'll never actually get addressed. Like I said, this is all part of Prop 1 that they're trying to push into our Constitution. It's going to be on the back of the ballot when you go vote this year in New York State. If you're in New York State, vote no. Okay, and it also does other things. People say, oh, well, it's for reproductive rights. No, it's not. We have New York State laws that already enshrine abortion and all of that. And we're not even going to talk about the lies that you use to say that abortion is reproductive rights, because that's not what it is. That's a whole separate conversation. But if that's what you want to say that it is, that's not about abortion, because it's already codified in law. Abortion isn't going anywhere. You can't get it to go anywhere, because it's not something that anybody has a taste for in New York State. But we should have a conversation about late-term abortion in New York State, because you shouldn't be able to kill a baby up to birth. That is a very serious problem. That is a very, very serious problem. And there's been cases of them killing babies after they're able to be born. You know, in New York State, that you cannot resuscitate, you cannot work to provide aid to a baby that is born alive during an abortion procedure, even if they're viable. You know that? But we can't have those conversations. But this goes back to this ridiculous constitutional amendment they're trying to do. It's got nothing to do with abortion. Abortion is already in our laws. It's not going anywhere. So why would you even need a constitutional amendment to even talk about addressing that? Don't play in my face like I'm stupid. And I know you guys, if you listen to the show, you're definitely not stupid. Make sure that you share and like. Definitely share it. And as we come up here, I'm going to encourage you yet again, vote no. And if you'd like to support the show, send me an email, marcuswilliams222@outlook.com. That's marcuswilliams222@outlook.com. That's 3 2s. And if you'd like to support the show, if you'd like to pitch in or whatever, and if you'd like to donate to my campaign for state assembly so I can work on some of the crazy laws that are going on in New York State, definitely donate to my campaign, www.marcusforrochester.com. That's Marcus, the number 4, Rochester.com. I really appreciate all you guys tuning in today. It's very awesome that we get this chance to talk to each other. So make sure that you tune in next week, 2:30 to 4 p.m. on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. I'll catch you guys later. Remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action. Be blessed and be well. Catch you guys later.